Hi, this is Bhaskar Ghosh,
Hello, this is Shai Hao.
and we worked together for the news summarization project as part of Applied Deep Learning final project for fall 2019. So, why news summarization? So, the news landscape is evolving. There are many more digital news outlets than before. Much more content is being generated online. And news companies are focusing on machine learning and automation tools. Outlets like the Associated Press, Bloomberg, and Reuters have already automated some or part of some of their beats, like sports and quarterly business reporting. News summarization can help readers understand the context of a story without going through the entire content. It can help news publications and aggregators generate snippets of news articles, let's say on as part of your app notifications. Some of the related research that we went through for this project was neural summarization by extracting sentences and words. This paper came out in 2016. It used the sequence to sequence model for summarization. It was an earlier attempt using the CNN and Daily Mail dataset. Uh, the content selection in deep learning models of summarization came out in February 2019 by Kathleen McCune and Chris Kedzie, who are part of the Columbia Engineering School. Uh, Sentence encoders that they used was averaging recurrent and convolutional neural network encoders, and they used RNN and sequence to sequence for sentence extraction. Another paper that came out in February 2019 by Microsoft was structured neural summarization, which used graph neural networks for the summarization tasks. We are focusing on content selection in deep learning models of summarization for the purposes of this project. So this is the initial architecture of the model that we built. We took the sentences available in the dataset and we tokenized it, and we used pre-trained glove embeddings to generate sentence embeddings for these sentences. And then we fed these sentence embeddings into a bidirectional LSTM model, which had a dense layer and then a softmax layer as the output layer. And we got back a list of probabilities of the sentences that were picked. For the summary, we picked the top 4 sentences in decreasing order of probability. The pre-processing part that we did for this project was also interesting. So we downloaded the CNN Daily Mail corpus and we pre-processed it into training, validation, and test data sets. We also got human abstracts for the articles that as part of the process. The number of training articles was 280,000, which is a huge number, and it was taking a lot of time to pre-process. So we decided to go only for around 23,000 articles for training and 5,000 articles for validation and test each. We had all the data mounted on Google Drive, but we found out that processing all that data on Colab was very slow. So we requested access to the high performance cluster at Columbia for further processing and training tasks. So this is what the data looks like. The pre-processed inputs, the article ID inputs are a list of texts, tokens, part of speech tags, named entities, word count, and sentence indexes. The sentence embeddings are 200 dimensional vectors. The labels have an article ID and a binary list showing whether a sentence is picked or not, and human abstracts, which are sentences written by human evaluators. So before we go to model training, let me walk you through some of the code that we have. So we have 3 notebooks that we divided our project into. 2 were used for pre-processing and 1 was used for model training. So this is the first pre-processing notebook where we have the full diagram of our model. And some of the steps shown here are directly taken from the repository of Chris Kedzie, one of the researchers who was working on the model that we based our project on. And the second preprocessing notebook is basically about generating sentence embeddings for training, validation, and test datasets. And here you can see that we have loaded the glove embeddings from the Google Drive, and then we have written functions to generate the sentence embeddings using the data that we already have on our drive. So for training, it took quite a bit of time, but for validation and test, it was reasonable. So yeah, this is all about the pre-processing of the data. We now move towards the model training.
So for the model training part, we first try like different maximum sentence length, and finally we set it to 100 for a given article, and then we pad it and truncate the rest of the articles. So we define and train a bidirectional LSTM model using the sentence embedding we generated previously and the labels we download from the dataset of the paper. And we start out with a single batch of size 64 to test whether the model can actually, the loss of the model can actually decrease. And we tried out different variation of optimizers, initializers, activation functions, epochs, and the summary lengths. So for the evaluation part, we use the test set to evaluate the model and print out just 5 examples of the sentences extracted by the machine and compare them with the human abstracts. So we also use a Rouge score, which is like a way to evaluate the model in most of the NLP summarization papers to determine whether our model is accurate enough. So this is one result of our model. So the Rouge score for this is like 60.41, which is a percentage. And like for the machine summary, we can find out like it can kind of catch up the important part of the human abstract, which talks about like Chris Early and like who bought a quadcopter to make commercials, and he decided he could use it for personal monitoring purpose. So this part, the problem for the machine summary is like you actually pick a sentence, scroll down for video, which is not that good and not contribute to the final the accuracy of the model. Yeah. So let's go back to the notebook. This is the third notebook. We use that to truncate and padding the sentences we have, and we define, train, and evaluate our model here. So if we scroll down here, it's like we just install some necessary libraries here, and then we are now using the GPU for this assignment, for this project. And then here we set the maximum length 100, and then we create a data set using the embedding files, the labels, and we set the batch size to 64 here. So after we create the data set, we process the data by truncate them and like pad them here. So we also like pad the labels. So if we scroll down here, we can see we show the length of, we do some experiments on this data set. So the main part, the one important experiment we did is like the length of each sentence. So at first we tried 20, and the accuracy of the model is relatively low. And then we increase the length to 100, and then we get like 96% accuracy for our model. Here we can see the accuracy here. Other experiment we made is like we did the experiment. We used the dropout for the model, because at first we didn't use that, and the accuracy is about 50%. And after using that, like the accuracy increased to like about 85%. And we also try some other we try different initializers, we try different activation functions here. So we first try a different optimizer. We try SGD instead of Adam, but it doesn't perform very well. We try different loss function. We try categorical cross entropy, which doesn't fit in this because our output is either 0 or 1 for the label. And we also try some different initializers, and we find out the zero initializers will prevent the model from improving, and the other initializers like the global uniform and random normal doesn't make a lot of differences. We also try different activation functions, and ReLU performs the best for the model. So after all this, we train the model using just one single batch, and we get the accuracy for 96%, and it kind of improved a little bit in the end, and we print out the prediction and the answers here. So after this part, we start to use the checkpoint because for the model, because we train the model on HPC, it tend to disconnect sometimes. So it's good to save the weight so that we can continue our training when we come back, when we reconnect to the server. And we also define the validation and training accuracy here, and we train the model on the entire data set. And then we get a similar accuracy for the validation data set too. And then we try to plot the model, but on HPC plot doesn't work. And then we compare the machine-generated results with the human abstract. We print out 5 examples here. One of them is showed on the slides, and the other of them have slightly lower Rouge score, but still reasonable. And in the end, this is the Rouge score for the 5 examples, and we finally process the test embedding data to generate the test embedding data, and then evaluate that using the SAM generate dataset function, and in the end we get the final Rouge score, which is 35, which is 0.35 for Rouge 1, and 0.31 for Rouge L, and 0.10 to Rouge 2.
So this is kind of about it from our side. We just wanted to say that we thoroughly enjoyed the class, and there was a lot of practical information in the class that we will be using in our further projects and most probably in our careers. So that's about it. Thank you so much for joining us, and bye-bye.